How many of you guys know who Troy Nehls is? He's a Republican congressman who loves him some Donald Trump. Troy Nehls has some thoughts about what it is that happened and what it is that we should do now that we've seen it.
I tell you, I was a sheriff for how many years? We had officer-involved shootings. I had, unfortunately, one of my own deputies shot and killed one of my brother's deputies in a blue-on-blue situation, this and that. And it's rushing to judgment, right? You got to let the situation develop and let the investigation do course. I mean, everybody wants to look at this from this angle, that angle. My God, we got to give it a little bit of time. And let the situation develop.
So DHS came out too soon saying what they did?
I'm just, the point I'm making is that you're asking me, what do you feel about that? Is that what you're asking? What you saw, do you think it was right? Do you think it was wrong? I think it's too early right now to offer an opinion. You saw what took place.
Weird. Bootlicker Troy Nehls says everyone should calm down and not come to conclusions. That is, until we find out more evidence, until someone asked him. Did you know that Kristi Noem came to complete conclusions about people being domestic terrorists and agitators with absolutely no evidence? As a matter of fact, in the face of actual evidence that proves her wrong, it's because Troy Nehls is a bootlicker. And as a matter of fact, what Troy Nehls is, he's an anti-American piece of shit. Here, he's going to make sure he shows you guys that.
What took place, I don't like it. I don't like any of this. Because what you're going to see now is you could go back now to 2020, you could see rioting. I'm sure George Soros is probably spending millions of dollars getting everybody ramped up in major cities across the country. And tonight the rats are coming out. I'm just telling you, I think the rats are coming out tonight, and you're going to see some civil unrest in this country. Tim Walz, I highly recommend you put a warning order for the National Guard. I'd get the National Guard deployed immediately. I would deploy it because I think it's going to get a little ugly. I think it's going to get a little ugly because this is, in my humble opinion, this is what the left wants. They want destruction. They want everybody just to go out there and start raising hell. They talk about peaceful protests. You're not going to see peaceful protests from the left. You're just not going to see it. You saw it in 2020. Look at what do we have? We burned down buildings across the entire country for months. Shameful.
Do you think ICE should leave Minneapolis like the mayor wants?
Let me tell you something. With all the waste, fraud, and abuse, we need to send Doge and everybody in that entire state because of the corruption you've seen with the Democrats. All I'm saying is maybe you could pause a little bit. I mean, we lost a life there, right? There was a loss of life, and there's not an officer in America. There's not a law enforcement officer in this country that says, I want to go out today and legally kill somebody or shoot somebody. Why in the hell would you want to do that, right? I'm not going to question that officer's tactics or motives. It is what it is, but now you got to let the situation develop and let the investigation do time.
Troy Nehls says American citizens are rats, and they've all been paid by George Soros. It's a good idea. George Soros just dropped me $1 million check yesterday for talking about this. It's really good. George Soros just pays the entire country, everybody who's against these pieces of trash. Everybody, somehow George Soros is paying everybody to come out because no one would have cared about you murdering someone in the middle of the streets without George Soros telling you. It digs into the mindset of these folks, because if Donald Trump tells them something and then actually pays them a couple pennies, then they'll come out and defend him to the death because that's what Troy Nehls is. He's that rat that he's claiming everyone else is. You know what? Let me show you who Troy Nehls is. Did you guys notice that tie he was wearing? By the way, it was Donald Trump's fucking face on it. The reason why Troy Nehls wears ties with Donald Trump's face on it is because Troy Nehls kneels to Donald Trump every chance he gets and gets as many ass cheeks in his mouth as possible. So there's a flashback moment. This is from maybe a year or two ago.
Everything that we do in the House of Representatives should be in the best interest of getting Donald Trump reelected. This guy right here. Motions to vacate, justified or unjustified. We don't have time for that right now.
Everything Representative of the United States Troy Nehls says that they should do as a party should be in the best interest of Donald Trump. It's almost like he's revealing his worldview and the way that he's looking to govern his constituents that apparently voted for him to kiss Donald Trump's ass and wear Donald Trump themed ties. In fact, it was even worse. Here he is again. This is another flashback.
There's no question he's the leader of our party. So now he's got a mission statement, his mission and his goals and objectives, whatever that is, we need to embrace it. All of it. Every single word. If Donald Trump says jump 3 feet high and scratch your head, we all jump 3 feet high and scratch our heads. That's it.
You know, it used to be, disparaging to tell someone, hey, if somebody tells you to jump and scratch your head, that you're going to jump and scratch their head. But this guy embraces it because, again, Troy Nehls is a rat. The same thing he called the American people, the people that he's disrespecting and saying that they're going to come out and riot, even though his gang, Donald Trump, who he jumps 3 feet high for and scratches his ass every time for, those folks are out in the streets actually committing murders, actually starting riots in American streets. That's their job. That's what Troy Nehls backs up. Like, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. What's odd though, he's saying all this stuff about how everyone's rats because he knows he doesn't, to the degree that he was saying he was representing them before, he doesn't have to worry about that anymore because Troy Nehls has decided, according to Access, we saw this is back in November, he's quitting Congress. He's not going to seek re-election. Isn't that weird? He can call everyone a rat so he can run away. Here's part of his statement. I made the decision after conversations with my beautiful bride and my girls over the Thanksgiving holiday to focus on my family and return home after this Congress. That's weird. Before making that decision, I called President Trump personally to let him know of my plans. President Trump has always been a strong ally for our district and a true friend, and I want him to hear it from me first. It's weird though. Also, Troy Nehls has an identical twin brother, Trevor Nehls, and he's apparently going to plan to run for that vacated seat that Troy's going to let go so he can go home to his wife and his 2 girls, and so he can, be embarrassed about how often they have to look at his face and understand that he kneeled to Donald Trump like a little bitch his entire life. Isn't it embarrassing? Isn't that embarrassing? Did he go home after he said, I'm gonna jump 3 feet high and scratch my head? Did he go home to his beautiful bride and his girls and say, look, dad's home? Or let me not go further than that. I'm sorry for playing a few of these folks and their reactions because I actually don't mean anything. They're not actually talking to the American people. What people are actually doing, like Representative Wesley Hunt here, this beanhead motherfucker, what they're actually doing is speaking to Donald Trump because that's who they serve. Wesley Hunt also believes that same principle of jumping 3 feet high and scratching your head, except he doesn't realize how much of a fascist he is.
The bottom line is this: when a federal officer gives you instructions, you abide by them, and then you get to keep your life. And it is clear that she tried to use her vehicle as a weapon, mow over an ICE agent, and now she is dead. And her death is tragic, but at the end of the day, it was completely avoidable if she would have simply followed the commands of the ICE agents.
Wesley Hunt, to the American people, as long as you listen to the Gestapo members in the streets tell you what to do as they attack you, then you get to keep your life. It's weird. I feel like all those Second Amendment people were waiting their entire lives with their, shed full of guns. I feel like they're waiting their entire lives for a bunch of overruling federal agents to run up in their cities and tell them what to do so that they can then go to their sheds, pull out all 35 of their guns and start shooting at them. I feel like Wesley Hunt probably backed all that stuff up too. That is until his side is the one that's the overreaching, authoritarian government that's running in the streets and telling you what to do. And if you don't do it, then you lose your life. I wonder what Wesley Hunt thinks of what happened to Ashley Babbitt, who did this odd thing. She did this weird thing. Federal officers told her what to do, which was not continue to jump through windows and try to kill elected officials on January 6th. I feel like they told Ashley Babbitt that, and then what happened is she lost her life.
There's a gun! There's a gun!
Do you think Wesley Hunt said that Ashley Babbitt deserved to die? Do you think Wesley Hunt went on Newsmax and said, all you got to do is follow the orders of federal officers and you can live? Do you think he said that? Hey, maybe I'm wrong. I haven't researched everything that Wesley Hunt says. Somebody find me the video of Wesley Hunt saying that Ashley Babbitt deserved to die. Somebody show me that video. The big difference between these two situations is Ashley Babbitt was a part of a mob that ran up in the Capitol on the day that her president lost an election in this, used to be representative democracy, and then ran up and tried to break through the last division between these riotous sumbitches and more elected officials that they were talking about hanging, killing, maiming, and dragging out. And the reason that they say all these things that they say is because Donald Trump said this about Ashley Babbitt, who apparently should have just listened to those federal officers.
In that 3 hours, over 140 officers were injured that day.
And a person named Ashley Babbitt was killed.
Yes.
You know what? She was killed, and she shouldn't have been killed. And that thug that killed her, there was no reason to shoot her. At blank range, cold blank range, they shot her. And she was a good person. She was a patriot. There was no reason. And he went on television to brag about the fact that he killed her.
The officer was not bragging about the fact that he killed her, but
bragging.
one person.
Did you guys see the statement yesterday from Donald Trump saying that ICE agent killed that woman, Renee Good, in cold blood, point blank cold blood? Did you hear him say that? Isn't it weird? I know it's not weird. It's what all those folks with Trump derangement syndrome predicted would happen.